everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is another one of our webinar series for employability, particularly focused at trying to help international students and enter into their careers post their study. Today's topic is on leveraging the power of LinkedIn. I'm sure everyone here would know about LinkedIn, and we're going to really talk about how you can actually take advantage of it. And it's not just about creating a profile. There is a lot more to LinkedIn than that. You will be able to see on your screen Siad Ashan, who is joining us today. He's currently working at Deloitte, was previously at Pitcher Partners, and he's going to tell a story about how he used LinkedIn to help him get a job, to show that it's not just Dom and myself here talking about it, it actually does work. So for those that don't know me, I'm Jared Holland and a founder of Outcome.Life. And in your screen, you'll also be able to see Dominic Saporito, who's also a founder of Outcome.Life. And it's a business we started in 2015 to help international students get jobs, basically. And we do that through running lots of networking events, doing webinars like this, lots of employability seminars, internship placements, and we also run a pre-accelerator for international students. Well, Dom predominantly runs that one because not everyone needs to go and get a job. You can also create your own job. And so starting a business helps you do that. I would also like to acknowledge Study New South Wales. They have been absolutely terrific in supporting the sector during COVID-19. That team is working absolutely tirelessly and non-stop. And this series is being very well supported by Study New South Wales. They are a body that's been put in place by the New South Wales government to support international education in New South Wales and to make it one of the most marketable and beneficial places to study in the world. And they've done a terrific job of that. One of their focuses is on its student experience, and employability falls into that. And they do an enormous amount of work with that as well. And that's why this series has been put on. So we very much like to thank Study New South Wales. So without further ado, we might get into today's topic, which is on LinkedIn. For students out there, it is very important. Don't kid yourself to think it's not. And by the end of this webinar, you will all be convinced of how important LinkedIn is, and most importantly, how you can utilize it to your own advantage. This slide, some of you may have seen before. It is probably our favorite slide whenever we present, because what we are all about is empowering you, encouraging you, convincing you to play in the hidden job market. There is no point playing above the surface. 85% of jobs are never advertised. You must access the hidden job market, and LinkedIn is one of those ways to do that. So there are many other ways that we've talked about in previous webinars and events, but today we're going to talk about, effectively what we talk about today is using LinkedIn to access the hidden job market. So what is LinkedIn? Well, this slide's a little bit out of date. I think it's far more than 500 million strong in terms of the amount of people on LinkedIn, but it is a huge database of people. And LinkedIn is more than just a profile. It is not just a digital version of your CV. It is actually your personal branding website. And for everyone that isn't familiar with personal brand, so a company has a brand, Nike is a brand. Every single individual also has their own personal brands. When people see you, they think of something about you. So LinkedIn is a portrayal of your personal brand. And the most important thing we'll talk about today is your connections. Who are you connected with on LinkedIn, and how does that benefit you, and how can you use that to your advantage? And it's also a way to share about things that you know and to express your personal brand. And Siad is a good example of how Siad has done that as well. The other reason LinkedIn is important is that if you Google your name, and no, I don't go Googling my name every single week. I did it just for this presentation, I promise you. But usually LinkedIn comes up first, and try it now. If you Google your name, you can almost guarantee the first thing that comes up of your name is your LinkedIn profile. So Google's algorithms favor it. So you can see the third one down is my profile on our business website. That is being outranked by LinkedIn. So very important to have a presence on LinkedIn so as that you actually appear in Google if an employer may be looking to find out information about you. So there's a few things we're going to talk through today, and one of them is on your profile, but we're going to focus on the above the fold profile. So the part that's on your screen now is called above the fold. We're not going to focus on the below the fold stuff today because first impressions count. And this is the area where people will generally look. If they're of interest, they will then go further. And so we'll step through each of these red boxes being the photos, the header, contact info, connections, and also where you've studied and what you've worked, where you've worked. In terms of the photos, it's really important that you make sure that you have a professional photo. So don't have a photo with your friends in it. Don't have a photo of you patting a tiger. Don't try not to have a full body. Try and have a headshot. The reason why I've used Andrew Ford is that Andrew Ford is an expert in this space on personal brand. So may as well show someone who's an expert in personal branding, and Andrew Ford is definitely that. So I've used his LinkedIn profile. But you'll see how he's got a very professional close-up photo. He's smiling. There's nothing worse than seeing photos where people aren't smiling. People want to deal with happy people. And just make sure you've got a nice professional photo. You don't have to pay a photographer to do it. iPhones, Samsung phones take amazing photos these days, but just make sure it's a nice headshot. Now, sorry, Dom.
I was just going to say, if any of you ever have your graduation photo with that stupid hat and that little thing hanging down and a teddy bear and the flowers standing next to your mum and dad, I will not connect with you. Terrible photo.
Remember, LinkedIn, you're not a student, you're a professional. So we don't have to tell everyone we're a student. We want to tell everyone that we are a professional. And the photo of the profile is not the only place to have a photo. That background where it says social star, you can tailor that for every single person. So you'll see on Dom's LinkedIn profile sitting behind him, he's got one of Outcome.Life, his business. So utilize that backdrop, put something that's there about you. So Andrew Ford has got his business there as well. But if you're not working anywhere yet and you're an engineer, you might have something to do with engineering in your backdrop, but utilize that to your advantage. The headline, this is really important. So this is the part where people will really get a feel for who you are and what you represent. So you'll see in Andrew's, he's got helping businesses utilize their leaders' personal brands to cut through on social media and get staff, clients, and funds. I know exactly what Andrew does, and I know what value he can bring to my business. The one thing to think about here, it's not about you, right? This is about what value you can bring to a business. So when you're writing that, have that in mind. And we've given a bit of a cheat here as to how you can best do that. You want to be able to take 1, your expertise, 2, target audience, and 3, benefit. So you'll notice in Andrew, he's saying his expertise is that he's an expert in personal branding. His target audience is leaders within a business, right? So executive level people in a business. And the benefit he brings is I'm going to help you get better staff and I'm going to help you get more clients. Right? So he's really stepped out what he does, who he's targeting, and the benefits he brings. And who you're targeting becomes really important as well, because you don't want to be everything to everyone. You might have heard the phrase, if you're everything to everyone, you're nothing to no one. Right? So really pick out who you're targeting. So I thought what we'd do is actually give some examples of how this could work for someone that maybe hasn't graduated yet or hasn't got a job yet, where you can still utilize this. And we don't want you to refer to being a student, right? You are a professional. So let's take an accountant, for example. I'm sure there's some people here who are studying accounting, but as an example, so you might be studying a Master of Professional Accounting. You haven't even worked as an accountant yet. You could put as your expertise, you're a management accountant, could be a financial accountant, but management accounting. The target is you love e-commerce. You love selling stuff online, so you're targeting e-commerce businesses. Your benefit is that you're going to help e-commerce businesses to understand what their customers are actually buying, what's popular and what's the margin. So you put that together, management accountant helping e-commerce businesses to gain insights into what their customers buy. Pretty simple. Here's another example.
So this one's software developer. So we employ quite a few software developers in our business. So the expertise is that you might be a front-end software developer. Your target audience, you perhaps really enjoy working in startups, which we encourage all internationals to focus on because they tend to love internationals. And the benefit is that you can create apps fast using a particular technology. In this case, it may be Flutter. That would be a really good example of a headline.
So front-end software developer helping small businesses create apps fast using Flutter. That's the headline. If we use another example to try and cover off on everyone, an engineer. So you're about to graduate as a mechanical engineer. So your expertise is you're a mechanical engineer. And you might like manufacturing businesses. So maybe your parents had a manufacturing business and that's what your real passion is. And the benefit is that you can help keep machinery optimized. So manufacturing businesses all need to look after their machinery. So a mechanical engineer helping manufacturing businesses keep their machinery optimized. That's your headline.
And there was a really good question there from Fazal, and it was, should we be writing it the first person or third person? My tip on this, and I was taught when I was at Pitcher Partners by a linguistics professor, that whenever you do write anything, he would say, never write the unutterable, which means that pretend the person is in front of you. What would you say? And that's what you should write. Like you see a lot of lawyers write things like, please find enclosed herewith. No one talks like that. So don't ever write that. So write it as if the person was in front of you, because that's your best chance of making a personal connection with them.
Data analyst, Dom?
Data analyst. So the expertise is being a data analyst, and this is another fantastic job of the future. There's going to be so many more data analysts in the world. So anyone that's studying IT, this is something you may want to focus in on. The target audience is helping professional service businesses as opposed to, say, manufacturers. And the benefit is understanding where their staff are actually spending their time. So I'm a data analyst. I help professional service businesses, and I missed that last bit, understanding where their staff are actually spending time. Now, what I was also going to say here, Jared, is that this is also a really good way to come up with your elevator speech. So we talk about when you go to a meetup and you've got to meet people for the first time, or when you introduce yourself in an interview. You know, this is a similar type thing that you might wish to say as it can form your elevator speech.
So the important square, the connection square. So building your connections on LinkedIn is really important. And this is why we encourage everyone to get on LinkedIn as early as they possibly can. Like someone that's just leaving primary school should be setting up a LinkedIn profile, because then all their primary school friends can become connections on LinkedIn. And you want to get to 500 connections as quickly as you can. And the reason for 500 is you'll notice there, so Andrew Ford, I have no doubt, would probably have 5,000 connections. But once you get to 501, it just says 500 plus. So it doesn't matter if you got 5,000 or if you got 501. Everyone knows, so 500 plus is a signal that you are a hyper-connected person. Now, why is that important? Well, Dom, you want to say something?
I was going to say, there's a really good question here. Someone asks, how would this help a nursing student? Like if you're a nurse, what's the point of having LinkedIn? Question to you. I mean, I was going to say that, you know, you're judged by your connections on LinkedIn, but I think it helps every student. But what's your thought?
So say you're working at the Alfred Hospital as a nurse, and you've been there for 4 to 5 years, and a really good opportunity, maybe you've been working in a certain area, but now you want to get into cardiology. And the best cardiology surgeon happens to work out of Monash Health. And on LinkedIn, you notice that one of your friends is connected to that surgeon. Right? If you do not have LinkedIn, you do not know that. So you reach out to your friend and you say, hey, I really want to move into cardiology. I'd love to go and work for this surgeon. I see you've connected to on LinkedIn. And your friend says, yeah, he's my next door neighbor. You say, do you reckon I might be able to have a coffee with him? Sure, I'll sort out a coffee. If you are not on LinkedIn, you have missed out on a life-changing connection. That is why LinkedIn is important. It is so much more important than people think it is. It's not about your profile. It's about who you know and who you know who they know. And that's a perfect example of how it is so important.
And another question has said, what if you don't have experience? Now, we weren't going to cover that because that's what we call below the fold. We're just covering the stuff that people see as soon as they go to your profile. But it doesn't matter if you don't have experience. You know, to say that you're an aspiring management accountant who really wants to work in, say, the fashion industry because you want to help, you know, retail outlets sell more clothes. I mean, that doesn't say anything about experience, but it really does show your intent. So don't worry if you don't have experience. Get yourself on LinkedIn and start connecting with significant people.
But equally, that I mean, mate, let's just jump to that section for a second. So here is for Andrew, his education and where he works, social star. So you may not have a professional job yet, but you may have worked at McDonald's. You put McDonald's there. That is experience. Yeah. And actually working at McDonald's is highly valuable experience. Two reasons. They have the best training known to man about processes and systems. Their systems in place are incredible. And two, customer service. If you're doing a night shift, you've got drunk people coming in at 1 o'clock in the morning and asking for a Big Mac meal. You have to deal with all types of people in a customer service environment. It's terrific training, but we do meet a lot of students that are embarrassed by their part-time work. They've only worked at Kmart, or they've worked at the reject shop or at a cafe. It is still very valuable experience. Put it in your LinkedIn profile. You may have done volunteering at university. You may have written a blog, which we'll talk about later. There is lots of things you can do to populate your LinkedIn profile.
And that type of experience, whether it be at McDonald's or whether it be at Hungry Jack's, somewhere like that, what that means is that another company has worn the learning curve of you having your very first job. And I see, say, you nodding there. And don't underestimate how different it is to actually work in a real organisation. And an employer, and I know that when I did recruitment at Pitcher Partners for many years, we would actually target those who'd worked at the fast food chains because of that thing that you've worked to a system, followed rules, worked as a team, and dealt with the worst people on the planet, which is the public. And, you know, that experience of having to deal with the public and all the different variants that walk in that door every day is extremely valuable to an employer who's looking to take you on as a graduate. So please put it in there and be very proud of it.
And thank you for the questions too. If you
keep
the questions coming, because we will answer them as we go, as opposed to just waiting until the end, as you've seen already. So Dom is watching those questions, and if there's something that comes up as we go, please type it in the chat and we will answer it. Let me just go back slides if I can.
And while Jared's doing that, there is a question here about what if you want to make your headline broader? That's fine, except that if you really were targeting an area, then by making it broad, you're definitely not going to be attracting someone specifically to that area. So, if it is, you want to go broad, by means do so. But, you know, that old saying, if you don't aim at something, you'll hit it with incredible accuracy. So you've got to make sure that you're targeting what you're after. You may get more results out of that.
Yeah, and the key thing here, don't put, I'm a student studying whatever, or
open for opportunities.
Yeah, I'm about to graduate. People on LinkedIn don't care. They want to know what value can you bring to my organization. So whether you're going to graduate in 3 months' time or you graduated 6 months ago as an engineer, that's your profession. You're an engineer. You don't have to put anything about your study stuff in that headline, because you are bringing value to organization to give them service. That's what employees do. And that's what you want to focus on. So building connections, always a very common question we get, but how do I build my connections? It's actually not as hard as you think. So as an example, everyone that is in your class, when you used to actually go to a class, remember that back in early March, connect with them on LinkedIn. Make sure that all of your classmates become your connections on LinkedIn. Are they going to help you get a job right now? No. Will they help you do business or get a job in 5 years' time? Absolutely. So you want to be connecting with them all now. Now, the example I just gave about the nurse can apply with one of your classmates. So not only are you connecting with one person, you actually get access to all of their connections. And with CAD, we're going to talk about how that actually works in real life. So don't think that no one is good enough for you to connect with. Absolutely everyone is. And what you want to do is build up a profile or a data, connections of people are people who you know, right? There's nothing worse than seeing people on LinkedIn that are connected to a whole lot of people who they don't know, right? I actually think it's spam, and I've even reported people to LinkedIn for it. And I'll give an example of that later. But anyone you meet, it is okay to connect with them on LinkedIn. It's not like Facebook, where people connect on Facebook when you are legitimately friends. You actually know each other pretty well. But on LinkedIn, if you have met someone for 10 minutes, it is more than acceptable to connect them on LinkedIn. Now, a couple of other tricks. You'll see on the left-hand side of the screen, this part of LinkedIn is actually smart. Their algorithm actually suggests people who you might know. And this was how I built up my first 300 connections. I remember when I started, I would go to this every day. I'd spend 5 minutes on it, and then LinkedIn would always show me at least 5 people or 10 people in the first 5 minutes of people that I actually knew, whether I went to school with, whether I worked with, whether they were family. And it was a really easy way to connect with people. And the more you do it, the better the LinkedIn algorithm gets, the better it recommends people. The other thing you can do is you can actually connect your work email or your personal email to LinkedIn. LinkedIn will then start recommending people it sees in your email account to connect on LinkedIn. It becomes a really easy way to start connecting with people because it's reading your contacts out of your emails. So you'd be surprised how easy it is if you spend 5 minutes a day on this part of LinkedIn to get to 200 to 300 connections pretty quickly. On the right-hand side, you'll see who viewed your profile. So you can see that 494 people viewed my profile in the last 90 days. So I will often go through here and see, oh, I wonder who's been looking at me. And sometimes you might see, it could be a recruiter that could be looking at you. It could be someone who you might want to do business with. Often when I've connected with people before who have come and checked out my profile that I thought, wow, that would be a great connection. I wanted to speak to that person. And I've used that as an opportunity to reach out to them. I said, hey, Siad, I noticed you had a look at my LinkedIn profile. It'd be great to connect. Let me know if you might be interested in grabbing a coffee. There's a reason why they've looked at me. So I feel like it's okay to reach out to them because I know that they've already made the first move if it was dating. But always make it personal. And Dom will get very animated in a minute about how important this is.
Correct.
But before I let Dom explain what his views on this is, I want to refer you to the left-hand side. So the person on the top has said, hello, this is on Connect reaching out to me. You can see I've got 302 people on my feed here that I have not accepted. So 302 people have tried to connect with me and I have ignored them. And this is the reason why. Saloni Jane has reached out and said, hello, I happened to visit your profile and I would very much like to follow your work and overall journey. Let's connect. No way. Not interested. Could not care less. To me, that is spam. I've never met Saloni and she's sending a generic thing out to me to connect. I don't want that person in my LinkedIn connections. Use an example of the one below, Andrew Barrett. I presented to a university on Saturday. Andrew was in my class. It was exactly the same thing that's happening now. Andrew was in the audience as I'm speaking right now. When the webinar finished, and I haven't accepted this one yet because I wanted to use an example for today. Hi, Jared. I was part of the MEI class last week. I'd love to connect. Great session, by the way. I am 100% going to connect with Andrew. He made it personal and he gave me a compliment too, which helps. So anyone that's on the webinar right now, anyone that reaches out to me or Dom, and I'm pretty sure Siad, and says, hey, Siad, thanks so much for being on the webinar. Your story about how you use LinkedIn to help yourself get a job was really inspiring. I'd love to connect with you. I'm pretty confident Siad will connect with you. Dom?
So, and I'm exactly the same. And we did have a question earlier from someone saying, what should you do if people that are, say, anonymous try and connect with you? I would ignore 3 to 5 attempts for people to connect with me every day if I don't know who they are. And so what I say to people is that if you're going to connect with someone, only connect with people that you know, and make sure that you send a personal note. And for me, it would be that you would say, hi, Dom, thanks so much for presenting today. found it very useful. I'm going to get on LinkedIn straight away. Love to connect with you. Now, I'm receiving a photo of you. You've thanked me for something, which I think is a really great thing. Make sure the word thank you's in there somewhere, and then just ask politely to connect. Now, from my point of view, it would be rude if I didn't connect with you. So in a way, we're giving all of you permission today, and there's about 100 people on this webinar today. You all have permission to connect with us. And don't worry too much about whether or not you feel that, you've got enough experience, all that type of thing. Connect anyway, because again, you will be judged by the people that you are connected with on LinkedIn. And
Dom, when you connect with someone using your computer, it prompts you to write a personal message. So on the right-hand side of the screen, I'm connecting with Bazim, and it's prompting me to write a personal message, which I always do. But when you do it on your phone, it doesn't prompt me to write a personal message. It doesn't, but you can actually do that. And the way to do it is that when you go to connect, instead of just hitting the connect button, there's a more button. You click on that more button, and then it says personalize invite. So never ever just hit connect, because chances are, if I've met you at say a meetup or on a webinar, I'm not going to know who you are. But by going more and then personalize invite on your mobile phone, you can quickly write in a message. It will come to me. It will tell me how we've met, how we know each other, and that way I will connect with you. But it is easier on your computer. Okay, we covered off on that before. Contact information. So only your connections can see your contact information. Now, the reason we put this up here is you can choose what to have here. So Dom has put everything there, nearly including his address and his wife's phone number, I think. Yes. Most people don't have this much information, but you can choose what's put here. What I would recommend, I think it is a good idea to put your email address there, so is that if someone is of interest, you're of interest to them, if they want to, they could actually email you directly. But you can pick, and just be conscious, you can choose what appears in your contact info, and your connections can see that information. I actually put my birthday there, Jared, so you would remember to send me a lovely present. Ah, that's what it was for. Yes. Okay, I better 2021. We'll see if that makes a difference. Right. So targeting employers for jobs. So if you want to get a job somewhere, this to me is the most important slide. So it is amazing how powerful LinkedIn can be for helping you get a job. I believe, and Dom believes this as well, we actually don't think you should ever apply for a job at a company if you don't know at least one person that works there, right? Why would you be completely cold when there's hundreds and hundreds of companies out there where you've got a lead in, you've got a warm entry into that organization through someone that works there? This is an example I've got on the screen. Let's assume that I want to get a job at Bupa. All right, they're doing some amazing stuff. They're a great health insurance provider. They're innovative. They're a not-for-profit. So I really want to work at Bupa. I like what that company represents. I like their values. The first thing I do is I go to LinkedIn. I search by companies. So you got to change it, not by people. You search by company and you search Bupa. And this top section is what comes up. And this section here is the only thing I look for. Who do I know that works at Bupa? Now, as it turns out, I know 17 people that work at Bupa. So I'm loving it. Fantastic. I go to, that is a clickable line there, and it tells me who those 17 people are. I've highlighted Claire Cooper there. The next thing I would do is I would call Claire, or I'd message her and say, hey, Claire, I really want to work at Bupa. I've seen a couple of roles that are available. Do you reckon I could come and have a coffee with you to talk about what it's like, or who you might be able to refer me to inside of Bupa? Now, chances are Claire's going to come out saying, yeah, awesome, I love working here. Would love to have you here. Let's catch up and talk about it. Or there's 16 other people there that I could have that same conversation with. This is where LinkedIn is so powerful. And I think I saw someone write a question before about being a cleaner and wanting to get into it. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be anything. Remember, business is all done between people. People is at every single part of business. And so who you're connected to creates enormous opportunity. And we're going to hear from Siad to talk about how he has done exactly that. So Siad, your time to shine, mate.
Cool. Thanks, Gerard. Hi all. Quick intro again. Syed, working at Deloitte at the moment, and I was in Pitcher Partners prior to this. Thanks to Gerard, actually. So I guess going into my story and the previous slide Gerard touched on, my journey to joining Pitcher Partners Consulting. So how it happened was I once used to be an engineer. I left that job after a few months because I felt just didn't work out. And I was going around job hunting, firstly through an online basis, going on seek.com, jora.com, and just finding jobs and applying online. And back then I made the mistake of thinking, if I just apply for a job online, I'm going to get a job. But then what Dom and Gerard just mentioned before, it's 85% of the jobs are not advertised. So with that new, knowledge in my head, I started going out to actual events in person to hopefully meet people. One thing could lead to another and hopefully get a role I want. So I remember meeting Gerard probably 3.5 years ago now. And I went to this event. It was a event with, I think, Uber presenting on their operations in Melbourne. They were quite new to Melbourne at that point, and my intention was to learn more about Uber. However, at the start of the event, Gerard and I hit it off pretty well. He told me that he used to work in professional services once, and I thought that was pretty cool. We got to know each other. We added each other on LinkedIn. Fast forward about 3-4 weeks, I was on LinkedIn looking at jobs. And then, as you can see on the screen, Pitcher Partners, they were advertising a role for graduate business consultant. I got super excited. However, I felt, I actually didn't know about Pitcher Partners much, and I didn't know anyone in the company, or that's what I thought. So in the previous slide, Gerard showed that if you click into a company, it will show you the connections that have worked here. Yes, exactly that. And so under mine, there's only one connection who worked there, and that was Gerard. As soon as I saw that, I clicked his name. I sent a message going, "Hey, Gerard, lovely meeting you 4 weeks ago. Great event, great kickoff event with Uber. I'm looking to apply for this graduate business consultant role at Pitcher Partners, and you've worked here before, so I was hoping you could give me some insight or even any referrals to anyone in the company, in the team I want to join, which is consulting." Straight away, Gerard, being the awesome guy he is, he referred me to a person called Dave Norton, who actually ended up being my buddy. So when you join a grad program in any company, you get given a buddy who helps you through your career. Anyway, so Gerard set me up with Dave Norton over email saying, "Hey Dave, meet Syed. He would love to be part of your team. Maybe grab a coffee with him." I think a week later, I caught up with Dave for coffee. We hit it off really well. And then Dave told me, "Hey mate, if you want to put me down as a referral, happy to. So, and if you have any other questions with the application process, let me know." So right after the coffee, I went back home, I opened up the application process and went through everything. And then the most important box, it wasn't attach resume, attach CV, attach cover letter. It was, "Do you know anyone in the company? Would you like them to be your referral?" And I'm like, that's my gold mine, I guess, because I just met up with Dave. So I put David Norton down, put his name. Literally a day later, I got a call from HR going, "Hey, Syed, we want you for the first round of interview." So I basically got to skip the whole screening process just because Dave Norton's name popped up. And I think, Greg Mason, you mentioned something just before in regards to that. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. I got fast tracked to the first round interview. First round interview came around, and now you'll notice on the screen there are two names, Fiona Tang and Rob Mackay. So I'll talk about Fiona Tang now. So when I went into the first round interview, there were 3 people: a HR rep, Fiona Tang, and a person called Nathan Hudson. The interview initially was a bit intense and tough. I felt I couldn't really break the ice that well. They were asking me pretty intense questions. And then I thought, you know what? Before I even got to the interview, I got an email saying, "You will be interviewing with Fiona, Nathan Hudson, and HR." As soon as I saw those 3 names, I called up Gerard and said, "Hey mate, I got this interview in a couple of days with Fiona and Nathan. Do you know anything about them?" Thankfully, Gerard worked with Fiona a few years ago, but he knew her quite well. He knew what her specialty was. He knew what her personality was. And that for me was almost taking a cheat sheet to an interview and part of the big preparation for the interview. So knowing all this, I went into the interview. They were asking me a lot of tough questions. And eventually I thought, you know what? I need to mention Gerard with Fiona because I think that's going to loosen her up. And because we will have mutual grounding to kind of build rapport on, let's see how it goes. So I told Fiona while she was jotting down notes on one of the questions I answered, I'm like, oh, hey, Fiona, do you know someone called Gerard Holland by any chance? She looked up, her face lit up, and straight away she said, yeah, Gerard. I used to work with him a couple of years ago. And from there, we talked about Gerard for about a good 10 minutes, so in an actual interview, whereas while the other two people are just sitting in silence, which is a bit awkward. But yeah, we just chatted away. And then Fiona after that loosened up quite a bit. Her body wasn't as tense. My body wasn't as tense. And yeah, the interview finished off. I said my goodbyes. And I mentioned Gerard again going, oh, it was lovely chatting about Gerard. And, thanks for telling me about your consulting team. So that happened. Again, within 2 days, I got a call from HR saying, Syed, we're happy with you. Final round interview. So you're going to be meeting partner, the lead partner of your consulting team, and that's Rob Mackay, who's on the screen, bottom right corner. So big boss, Rob Mackay, I was a bit nervous. My first potential graduate consulting role, I was waiting in the Pitcher Partners foyer. And then Rob, very lovely guy, he comes up to me and goes, hey, Syed, lovely to meet you. I'm Rob Mackay. I introduced myself. And on the way to walking into the interview room, I didn't have to mention anything, but Rob said, oh, hey, Syed, I met one of your good friends over the weekend. And I thought, oh, what? Who could it be? We don't know any mutuals. And he's like, and I asked him, like, who is it? And Rob said, I met Gerard Holland at Stakes Day. And Stakes Day is a horse race that happens in Victoria, a pretty big one. And Rob Mackay loves going to horse races. Apparently Gerard does as well. I found out that day. And yeah, so we sat down in the interview room, and we're still talking about Gerard. So I just asked Rob, like, oh, how do you know Gerard? How was your Stakes Day? How was their horse race? And Rob told me quite a few things that were personal in a good way. He wasn't being professional. He was telling me, oh, Gerard and I go way back. He's such a good lad. We had quite a few drinks. We had such a good time. And what ended up happening was I had a 1-hour interview with Rob. 40 minutes of it was talking about Gerard. Not about me, not about my resume. And then in the last 20 minutes, he asked me a couple of questions like, oh, Syed, why consulting? Why do you want to join Pitcher Partners? Answered those. But my point is, I spent 40 minutes of my interview talking about someone who wasn't even involved in the interview, but who ended up being very critical to me getting the role. And that's what ended up happening. The next week, I got the offer from Pitchers. The HR called me and said, hey, Syed, we're happy with you. Here's your offer. So I guess the moral of the story is, and I'm very passionate about networking, and I got it from Gerard, the importance of knowing people in the company you want to work in, and even if they have worked there in the past, how powerful that can be. And Gerard's such a good example of that. Yeah, network, as Dom just mentioned. It's so powerful. It's changed my life. And there's I guess everything that happened after that in terms of my career, promoted, moving to a new company, it's all been network, and keep networking.
Thanks, Syed. And it's the perfect example of why we say that you shouldn't apply for companies unless you know someone that works there, because everything is done through people. And it really is a wonderful story about how that human connection makes a big difference. And the reason why I've highlighted 67 mutual connections there now is that Syed and I didn't know each other before this journey started. We now have 67 people in common with each other. So our networks have really grown with each other now as well. And that it really is about the people element of it. And this is where the question asked about the nurse again, this is the exact reason for having LinkedIn, is those connections. It doesn't matter what field you're in. It could be cleaning, it could be mining, it could be anything. One connection can honestly change your life, but you've got to not miss out on that connection. You'll never know, but you've got to be on LinkedIn to experience it.
And someone by the name of Ruth asked a good question, can it be seen as a negative by, name dropping during an interview? Well, reality is that, especially in this country, we are a service nation. We don't really make anything. We work in teams of people and provide services. And so what people are trying to do, they're trying to assess you by the people you hang around with. There's an old saying that you are an average of your 5 best friends. The same goes in your business life. You are an average of the people that you conduct business with. So to say that you're friends with Jared or Dom or whoever it might be in an interview just adds to their credibility. Now, you wouldn't say that you were friends with a criminal that had just, committed a horrendous crime, because that's not going to get you anywhere. But if you can, say that you are friends with credible people in our society, that goes a long way to you getting a job.
And do your background research. So Syed spoke to me before his meeting with Fiona and said, hey, my meeting's with Fiona. And I had a positive reaction to that and said, mate, talk about this, this, and this, tell her you know me. Now, if, say, Fiona and I didn't get along at work, and that happens, not everyone gets along, I might have said, look, mate, to be honest, we didn't see eye to eye on a few things. The relationship didn't end that well. I'd probably say, don't mention you know me. I just don't think it's going to go well. So do your research in advance. That's why you got to have the coffees and the conversations with people so you know, and then be strategic about it. There are lots of different ways to drop in, to name drop, where it's not just going, do you know Jared? Right? You come up with ways that you know you can put it into conversation. A good example might be that you might say, oh, tell me an example where you've had to work in a team or where you've shown initiative. You say, oh, look, my initiative was that I went to this event, I met this guy, Jared Holland, and we went and did this. Bang, you've just name dropped, right? Think about it, strategize. This is all about strategy. So put the effort in to do the research.
Jared, before you go on, there's a great question, and we get this a lot, and it's worth covering. And someone's asked, what if you're a shy person and networking doesn't come naturally to you? What should you do? Well, actually, no, let's ask Syed, because you said you're a strong advocate of networking. Let's hear it from someone who's not part of Outcome.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dom. So I used to be a very shy person, especially when I reached out to Gerard for networking opportunities, etc. So I guess you just have to put yourself out there. I think that's all I can say. You just have to put yourself out there. It is scary. You're putting yourself in front of a stranger, but the more you do it, the more you get comfortable, the more it becomes natural. And at the end of the day, for me, networking is you're pretty much building a friendship. That's the goal you're heading towards. And so if you go in with that mentality of, oh, I'm getting to know someone new, there doesn't have to be anything coming out of it. There doesn't need to be any outcome. It's just that you're going in there in a coffee with someone, getting to know them, and then that's that. So my point is, if you're shy, the first step is the hardest part, but after that, it's so much easier.
And Syed, if you're meeting someone for the first time at a meetup, what are some of the things that you say to the other person just to get things going, just to get you talking?
Sure. So what I would do is, if I'm attending meetup, I would go up, and the first thing I'd do is try to talk to anyone in the room. Just say, hi, I'm Syed. Nice to meet you. Hi, I'm Josh. Nice to meet you. First question I would ask is, oh, what brings you here today?
Beautiful.
First question I would ask. And that's when you'll either realize you guys are there for the same reason, great. And if you're not there for the same reason, be curious and find out why not, but what are they there for? And then you start building that relationship from there.
So really what you're trying to do is you're trying to get them talking because you're shy. Great, really good strategy. And one too that I tend to do is that I look for people in the room who you can tell that they're very uncomfortable because they're not talking to anyone. When you go into the room and someone's standing there going, oh no one's talking to me, look for that person and watch the relief come over their face because someone has come up to them and said hello. And you may end up with a professional friend for life just by doing that.
Yeah, and I think the other component is it is practice. So if you want to learn a new skill, it might be you want to learn a new software, you've got to practice. And networking is the same thing. It doesn't come naturally to most people. Probably 80% of people it doesn't come naturally to. And the only way you get better at something is by practicing. So you go to as many events as you can. And let's rephrase it. One event a week when COVID's over is not too much to ask to turn up to events. If you go to one event a week, that's 52 in a year. That is 52 times to practice networking. So it is something you need to work on and you need to practice it. Another component on LinkedIn that I find very important, useful, is the news feed. I don't use Instagram and Facebook and whatever, although I did discover TikTok recently, and that's pretty funny, actually.
Oh, yeah, right.
But if I'm going to look at a feed, I'll look at the LinkedIn feed, because I love business and it's much more business orientated. It's now tailored to the stuff that I like, and that's what I'll scroll through. So one way how that can work as an advantage is, as I've gotten the right-hand side, you're probably wondering why I've got an email, a LinkedIn message from Anoop there. What happened is that I had posted something on LinkedIn. I think it was, I'd done an open letter to Pauline Hanson about how she's, her views on international students. And Anoop wrote in the comment of that article, and that made me look at his profile. So my business wrote something on LinkedIn, Anoop then wrote in the comments, so then I went and looked at Anoop. So then I reached out to Anoop and said, hey, thanks Anoop, your profile looks quite interesting, maybe we should have a chat. So I ended up reaching out to him, even though he wrote my article. 4 months after that message was sent, he started working for us. All he did was write a comment on an article that I posted, right? So these are little, if you want to work for Bupa, then start finding ways to comment on Bupa's content. People will eventually notice you. There's another very good example of that. I'm going to throw over Siad again, because Siad actually had a blog very, very early in his career. Siad, why did you do this blog, and do you think it's helped you?
Sure, Gerard. Thanks again. Why did I do it, and has it helped me? So, I guess this is interesting. If you look at the date, July 5th, 2017. So this was me about 3 or 4 months into my career at Pitcher Partners. And why I started was literally the story I told you guys just before about using networking to get a job. And once that happened, I was, my mind was blown that it's so powerful and maybe not many people know about it. So I guess that was the why. I wanted to show people or talk about my own experiences on how networking can help you unlock your life, not just your career, could be personal life, could be anything else. But that was the why. I wanted to show people, the impact it can bring to your life. Has it helped me? The blog, 100%. I think, so Gerard mentioned the point of personal branding. LinkedIn's a great tool, and this is such a good way to build your brand. So the brand I wanted to build for myself is to be the networking guy, because I felt there weren't many people around me who saw networking in a nice or a good way. They always saw networking as, oh no, this guy has bad intentions or whatever it is. So I wanted to break that image of networking as well. So when I started writing this blog, and if you notice, this is episode 5, I think I ended up writing 7 episodes before I moved on to something else. But after I wrote my first blog, I remember the partners in my team. So partners being the big bosses in my team. One of them came up to me and said, Syed, do you like networking? I'm like, oh yeah, 100% I do. And next thing I know, he asked me, hey, do you want to come to a business lunch tomorrow? And I go, oh, what makes you say that? I was a bit shy, but what makes you say that I could be in a room full of business professionals? He's like, well, you can write about networking, so I think you have a good start. So just from that one article, I got that opportunity. And then I wrote 2 or 3 more, and then I started getting more and more of these business lunch, business breakfast, and even a dinner opportunity. So yes, it has definitely helped me. And it just gets your name out there that you're not scared and you're happy to share your thoughts. And I liked networking. I know a lot of friends who are in engineering. A couple of them write about structural engineering quite a lot, like the metro tunnels going on. It's very relevant to everyone in Victoria at the moment. So the more you write about these things, the more your brand gets, I guess, spit out into LinkedIn, and people associate you with, oh, he's the engineering guy, or oh, I'm the networking guy.
Yeah, and also, Sayed, I think it goes a long way to differentiating yourself against all the other people that are applying for the same job. So if you had 2 identical people, and you both have got, you go to great unis, you got good marks and whatever. However, one writes a blog and contributes to articles on LinkedIn about their chosen profession, and the other one doesn't. Who do you think is going to be more passionate about whatever it is that we want them to do? And so I think it's a very simple and very easy way for internationals in particular to be able to differentiate themselves as being an expert. So that's great.
And so yeah, your first episode you wrote, how scared were you when doing the first one?
Yeah, very scared. I thought I was scared when, reaching out to network with someone, but compared to that, this was much more terrifying, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And it's because you're pretty much sharing not your most intimate thoughts, but pretty intimate thoughts of what you think about networking. Sorry, Dom.
I was going to say there is a hybrid though, and that is that if you're a bit scared to do that, to write an article yourself, a great thing to do on LinkedIn is to take someone else's article, share it, repost it, and just write a comment about it. Mm-hmm. Something that's not going to be too controversial, because that kind of gets you into the flow of, talking about things, current issues in your industry of expertise.
Yep, Dom, thanks. Thankfully you mentioned that, because I was just about to say that. That's how I got started. I started sharing articles about networking from people I look up to, like Keith Ferrazzi, even Obama, Jack Ma, just anything at all. And I would just put a comment with my own opinion. And the more I did that, the more I built confidence, taking those baby steps. And then I thought, okay, let's write an article. What's the worst that's going to happen? And nothing bad happened. Everything good.
And also there was a question earlier, I think it was from Sarah, but someone asked, is it okay to connect with people that you don't know? And this is the legitimate way. So if someone has written something and you reply to it in the comments feed and you engage, then you've never met the person. However, then you can connect with them. And that's how a lot of people do grow their networks without actually physically meeting someone.
And that was how we hired Anup. He commented on one of our articles. And everything's scary until you do it. It's a really important quote for everyone to think about. Everything is scary until you do it. And so, but you've got to start, and I think that's a great way how Siad started, is start commenting on other people's content, get your confidence up, and then you can progress from there. But I think it's the other story I want to quickly add, Dom, before you jump in, is that Dom and I met, we're business partners because we met at a networking lunch. Yeah. And the story as to how that happened is very similar to Siad. I was sitting in the office one Friday, it was the day before Grand Final Day in Melbourne. And one of the partners walked out and he said, "Oh, Jared, one of my clients just pulled out of this lunch. Do you want to come?" And I was too junior to go. I was probably similar to you, said, "I shouldn't be at this lunch." And I said, "Of course I will." And I was crapping myself. Like I was scared as anything going to that lunch. And then to make it worse, I got sat next to Dom. So I had to spend this whole lunch.
Your lucky day.
Sitting next to this lunatic. And 4 years later or something, we became business partners. So it's amazing how these little things, again, it's a connection. That was a face-to-face physical connection, but other connections or online connections can really change your life.
Yep. Now, one thing that did just come up, and thank you, Suraj, for bringing this up. So he just tried to connect with me, but LinkedIn says that because he doesn't have a premium account, he can't send me a message. Now, that's not correct. That's what LinkedIn call in-mails, and that's how LinkedIn make their money. Now, you don't really need a premium account. I know Jared has one. I do not, and we both use LinkedIn every day. So what you need to do, especially if you're doing this on your mobile phone, is that instead of hitting connect, you need to hit more and then go down to personalized invite, and anyone is allowed to send a personal note with any connection request. But thank you, Suraj, because that allows me to highlight that point. Don't, unless you want to, you don't need a premium account to build a network on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And there it is there on the screen in the middle. Go to that personalized invite when you send it on your phone.
Yep, that's the one.
So in terms of your digital footprint, I think it's probably no surprise to everyone that recruiters use LinkedIn and they use social media. Even Facebook, you need to be careful what's on Facebook, because recruiters will go to your Facebook profiles. So will hiring managers, and they definitely will go to LinkedIn. I know that I will check LinkedIn before I check a CV any day of the week, and so will many people. So being aware of your digital footprint is really important. And with that, some tips on how you can make that more profound on LinkedIn. Get some recommendations. So in the top right-hand corner there, Harish has sent me a note. Now, Harish worked with us for a while and then moved to one of our clients. And you'll see Harish has sent a nice email saying, "Hi, Jerry, can you do me a big favor? I'd really like it if you could write a recommendation for me on LinkedIn." You'll notice that he has provided the link. People are time poor. You have to make it as easy as possible. So one, I thought, I'd love to help Harish out. I could click on the link. It brought up the box. I could give him a recommendation in 30 seconds. That is the way you ask people to do recommendations. In LinkedIn, there's a section where it says, ask someone to give you a recommendation. It automatically sends them the email that you can personalize. Never ask someone to do a recommendation for you if you are not prepared to do it this way, because it's too hard for them. It takes too much effort. On the left-hand side, you'll see this is Angelique's LinkedIn. She has got 23 recommendations, right? She's put effort into this, right? And she's got some quite senior people within international education that have left reviews for her, right? Because she's done what Harish has done many times. Now, just be strategic with who you ask, right? So what you probably want, if you've done an internship with someone, we do a lot of internship placements. And so often students will say to us, "Oh, can I get a certificate?" And it still blows my mind when anyone wants a certificate. I don't get it. What you want is your supervisor to leave you a recommendation on LinkedIn. It is worth 1,000 times more than having a certificate that's going to sit in your drawer somewhere that no one will ever look at again. Ask your supervisor, "Can you please leave me a recommendation as a thank you for me being here as an intern?" If they've been happy with your performance, of course they'll do that. Then it's there for everyone to see forever in a day. Far more powerful than getting a certificate.
Now, we're running out of time, so we probably need to end it shortly. But if I just leave everyone with one thought, to build a network, to build a LinkedIn network, to get more people to engage in what you're writing takes time. And so this is why we love meeting students in their first year, because we say to them, go to a meetup at least once a week, because over the 2 or 3 years of whatever you are studying, you can build a network and you can build your LinkedIn networks. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and it takes effort. But the best time to start, if you haven't already, is right now.
And this is our last slide, but we're doing pretty well on time, which is good. But not a lot of people know this. You can, even if you have a current job, so if Siad decided he wanted to go from Pitcher Partners to Deloitte to KPMG, he could, on LinkedIn, click on this box to say yes, that recruiters know that you are behind the scenes open to another role. Your employers cannot see this, but recruiters can. Recruiters pay a lot of money to use LinkedIn. So is that if they were searching for a data consultant and Siad had clicked it on as yes, he may come up in their searches, where if it's no, he may not. So it's just a little trick to make sure you've got your privacy settings set the right way. That is what we wanted to cover today. There is probably a lot more in LinkedIn, but we've definitely covered on the most important part. So what you'll probably gather, and I hope we've been able to give you the examples for it, is how important the connections part is. It is the most important part. Everything in life is done through people. It's all done through humans. It's all done through relationships. LinkedIn is a public online representation of your relationships and who you know. And so please take it seriously and please start building out your networks. I'd like to again thank Study New South Wales for being such an awesome supporter in us putting on this employability series. You don't know what you don't know. So we just want to make sure that everyone is aware of what they need to know. What you do to act on that is up to you. No one else can do that for you. That is up to you. And finally, Siad, thank you so much, mate, for coming in. I do love your story, even better that maybe I'm part of it, but I love your story because it is the perfect example of how it works. And you were a shy networker to begin with, and now you're an absolute weapon at it, but you're only a weapon at it because you practiced and you really put effort into it. I've got no doubt that you're not sitting at home watching Netflix. You're sitting at home working out how you can improve yourself and how you can learn more, and writing blogs and doing this sort of stuff. You deserve all the success that you get, and we thank you very much for joining us today.
I echo that. And what's our next seminar that we're running for the fantastic, awesome people at Study New South Wales? And if anyone is ever having any issues in your life here in Australia, in New South Wales, please get in contact with the good people at Study New South Wales. Their advice is they're there for you, and everything's free. So, please utilise that service.
So it's on the 30th of June at 2 p.m. And the topic is on digital marketing and marketing automation. So I actually love this topic because anyone that's coming from a commerce or IT background or marketing background, one, automation is in every sector and engineering, everything. And digital marketing is obviously important in every single business. We do thousands of internship placements, and the number one thing we get asked the most is social media, digital marketing, marketing automation. There is lots and lots of jobs. It's something that graduates can do. And so it's a really good topic that I think will get enormous value out of it. We will have Social Garden. They are social media gurus and automation gurus. And George from Social Garden will be joining us to provide some insights into how you can start yourself off in a career down that path and graduate employment.
Jared, though, as chartered accountants, 30th of June, won't we be attending stock takes?
No, that's our Christmas, that's our New Year's Eve, Dom.
Ah, right.
We're having a big party that night.
So you'd be attending stock takes, wouldn't you, 30 June?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes! I miss those days.
Good times.
As always, Dom, it's a pleasure having you on the webinar, Dom. Hopefully you got a couple of laughs at your jokes today.
I hit all the relevant stuff, mate. The relevant thing.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, Siad. Thank you, Study New South Wales.
Siad, thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, Gerard. Thanks, Dom.
No worries.
Excellent. Cheers.